So first things first, Andreas, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice seeing you.
That's very good to hear. Yeah, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Now, before we get into the album and the music you've been making lately, I'd like to jump back to the beginning. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, you make music together with your brother. When you were growing up, did you always have the same taste in music?
No, not really. Not really. And we never really got along when we were kids, really.
Okay.
We always fought and were not friends. But then at some point we got the Metallica CD in 2008, I think. Reload,
Hmm.
an odd album to start out your male career for sure. But we just heard it and we were like hooked. And then for 2, 3 years we just heard Metallica. That was all. And then we split apart, and he went more into Avenged Sevenfold, Motionless and White sort of thing, and I was more like Megadeth
Sure.
and all that shit, old school thrash metal. And then at some point we both started hearing death metal, and so yeah, still he's more into the more technical stuff like Revocation and all that, and a little more modern sounding death metal, and I'm more into the new wave of old school death metal as Frozen Soul and
Sure.
all that stuff. So, but it's still pretty close, I guess. But yeah,
Let,
a
let,
little
let's
different.
No, but let's talk about Metallica then, because that's what kind of bonded you together at that time. So it's interesting. What was it about Metallica and the type of music, that thrashy, kind of heavy music that attracted you?
I don't know. It was just at first it was we were like we heard it the first 2 times and we like it was the only CD we had, so we were like this is a little weird. And we tried to spin it a couple more times. It was just like I think it's how Reload is pretty groovy and pretty accessible for people who are not usually into the metal. So I think it's a good thing we started out with that one because it's sort of and it sounds very rock and roll or more like
Sure.
modern rock, polished in some sorts and has some a little cheesy parts too, which I still kind of like because it's funny. So I think it was just the abrasiveness of the heavy guitars
Mm.
and the heavy drums. Lars is no technical genius, but he can like fucking pound those drums like the little. He's a little Danish gorilla sort of. And if you never heard such music before, it's fucking just it just snapped. It just clicked with me at least. I think it was, and the record is so heavy. That Devil's Dance, that song on that album is fucking heavy as shit. The riff in that one, that's fucking sick though.
Well, that's cool that you mentioned that, and we'll get into it later when about riff writing. But first, when you hear this type of music and you kind of get into this metal music, did you kind of know, well, I want to start a band now? This is kind of what I want to do?
Nope, no, not at
Okay.
all. No, no. I went to my first show in like 2016 in my local city, and I was like, oh, it was a rock band called Fortress.
Hmm.
It's the guy who played in the band, and one of the guys who played in the band Orm. You know them?
Not sure, not sure.
It's a Danish black metal, fantastic black metal band. And they had this rock and roll band before, and I was hooked. I knew all the lyrics. I was just like
Okay.
singing all the songs live, just loving them. And so I went to that show, and then I was just hooked. And then I was like, I started googling shit and found out about Wacken. So I brought Simon to
Hmm.
Wacken the next year in 2017 when he was 16, I think.
Okay. Okay.
It was a big culture shock for him. And then we just went to a lot of shows after that. We got, I'm not even shitting you, like 25 Danish metal festivals just in Denmark. And we just started
Okay.
going to some of those and going to all the shows and just loving the scene and the vibe. And then at some point in like 2019, we were a little intoxicated and and I was like, we were at a show and it was fucking good, and I was like, we could do this, and he was like, ah, do you think so? Like, I can play a little bass, and he looked at me and he was like, you can't really do anything. Yeah, okay, for sure. But let's try. And then he started learning guitar. So he started learning guitar there in 2019 because he rather play guitar than bass.
Mm.
And so we just started, and then we started just writing songs in my old cellar, and it was pretty shitty. And we put the coats on the walls because we wanted to isolate the sound. So I had a lot of
Right.
jackets, put winter jackets all over the walls, and all that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
So we
what I
practiced there
find.
for like what?
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead. I'm so sorry for interrupting.
It's good. I was just saying we played there for like 4 months, and then Simon went skiing for half a year, and then we found a real rehearsal space.
But what I find interesting, because you kind of jump into all this metal music, and like you say, you go to all these live shows and stuff. When did you kind of find your own vocal style? Or was that a long process to kind of figure out how you wanted to sound?
Yeah. I think so. But I think I'm still trying to find that out. To be
Okay,
honest with you, this from the EP to this one, I think I try a lot of different stuff out and try to do a little more high pitch sort of things. But starting out, I was just like, what can I do?
sure.
So I was watching these YouTube videos on how to growl. You just slowly try practicing and getting better and better and better. And there's only one way to learn, and it's just to try to keep going. So I think I'm not locked in. In the beginning, it was I could only do gutturals, very low growls and all that. And then I try to along the way try to combine it a little more. Just try to play around with it, maybe do some screams at some point, whatever I feel like doing. I don't
Mm,
want to be restrained to just doing all the time or
sure.
just whatever comes to mind.
Sure, and
Really.
then obviously, I think you are the one responsible for all the lyrics. And you mentioned kind of the beginnings of you guys starting to write songs. So what was the motivation behind writing songs, and what did you want to put in them initially, and kind of how has that evolved to where you are now?
Oh, lyric wise, we started out just doing straightforward, just uh, I started doing just blasphemous lyrics, just
Okay.
like the EP, like fuck the Catholic Church and all
Sure.
the shit they're doing and all that stuff. And it got really repetitive really quick. So I was just thinking, what can we write about? And then I saw this YouTube video about that was really what started it. I think I saw this YouTube video about the Spanish dance fever. You heard about that? I
No,
think
I'm
it
not
was in
sure.
Spain they had that. I think it is a Spanish or yeah, just a dance fever or dance. Because then they just I don't know if it's really as as elaborate as they say it is, but it's just they keep dancing forever, ever
Mm,
until they just exhaust themselves. And that got me thinking of that riff like the My song where they are poisoned to dance eternally.
mm,
And so from that, we just started building the universe and all the different sorts of things. And I was like, I found a good vessel to speak about stuff in my life and speak about stuff in other people from the band's life in a more fantasy way or more just in metaphors and in other stories. I talked about this before in another interview, but it's a contrast to hardcore vocals, I think, because hardcore
mm.
vocals are very straightforward. Fuck you, I hate you, and I love that, and it's fucking great. And I feel sad, and I feel vulnerable, and I respect that a lot. But somehow, I think I would rather tell it like sort of Lord of the Rings sort of
Sure.
fantasy world, because that fits me more. And then I can, if there's some people in my real life who I don't get along with, I'll put them in the story and I make sure they get their head cut off or whatever.
It's just a therapy almost. You can put it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And
So,
when
so
when in this kind of development, because I think you started, as you mentioned, 2019, 2020, which was kind of also a time when the world stopped for a couple of years. So did you kind of when did you find the point where you thought, hey, we're actually pretty good, or this is pretty actually we can do something with this?
That's difficult because just as we got the band together, COVID hit, and we were like, what did we do? Then we just practiced and then did the EP, and then we did some few shows at schools who allowed us to play even though there was COVID. And as soon as the world opened up, we just started playing full on, and we were like, we got nothing to lose. We might as well just play. And maybe in 1 year we find out this shit, then we stop. But we thought we got nothing to lose. We're good friends, all of us, and let's just fucking go. And then one thing just led to the other, and then machinery started running. And now I think it's running very smoothly, and we love it. So
what was that first performance like? And had you had any live performance experience before that?
I did not really. The drummer used to play cover songs at weddings.
Okay.
And then he started playing death metal, and the bassist, the guitarist, been in like a marching band, big band sort of situation.
Sure.
And the guitarist has also played a few live gigs, but we never played death metal live. We never played metal live. We never played in other death or any metal projects before this. So it was. I don't think it was nerve-wracking because we were just doing what we wanted to and what we felt like, and hopefully we just hoped that people would not run out of the room immediately.
But like you say, and I think that's a great attitude to have. Like, you have nothing to lose. It's just we like doing this. We're just gonna see if something happens, and I think that's a great attitude.
Yeah, worst case scenario, we go back to our day jobs and live a normal life and get a wife and kids and all that shit. But right now we just play death metal. That's great.
So what does an average writing session for the band look like? Is it just, do you start with riffs? Do you start with like a thematic idea? How does a song generally come together?
I got a lot of ideas on what the next songs are going to be about, and I write some lyrics for them, but I tend to not write them completely done because then it might not fit the music. So I just put on the themes, and I have different ideas to move around with. But the songs start out with either Simon or Anton, the two guitarists, having some riffs they want to do a song with. Then they bring it to the rehearsal space, and then we just start building on them. And I got this riff, and he got this riff, and then, okay, if we do this now, and then this, try this, okay, it doesn't work, let's try some other things. So it's like trial and error all the way through. And then at some point we say, hey, we might need a break riff here. Do you have something? No, but can you just play the first riff, but take out this part and all that? So it's a big, everyone pitches in with ideas and like, can we do a bass break here? And so, and then we end up with something, and like 70% of the time the songs are good when we're done, and then the other 30% of the times we let them rest for a while, like a good wine, and just pull them back out and see. We might want to change just this little part, or take this part from this song and put it in here. So we like to do the songs and let them just, all of them actually, just let them sit for a while and see how they feel.
Maybe if you listen to them a little bit later, if you have the same excitement, then you kind of know that it was a good idea.
Exactly.
What I find, the one thing that struck me immediately about the music is I mean, obviously those heavy riffs and kind of that feel. Did you have to figure out that sound as well? Or then maybe this is a better question for Simon or Anton with kind of the guitar tones and stuff. But how did you kind of find, and in this case just for the album, but the kind of the heavy sound that you have, kind of that fat sound, it's really pops off the music immediately when you listen to you guys. So it's very interesting. How did you arrive at that?
It's because we did the first, what we did with the classic HM2, the Swedish sound. We were like, it's cool, but we wanted to explore other guitar sounds. So we were looking more towards the Florida scene, old school Florida scene, and the way they scoop their guitar sound. So no mid and all, but all like it's all scooped out, no mid. And so we tried to work with that, and Simon Anton did that. And then in the studio, we tried out to do. We did 2 recordings of each guitar, one with the scooped pedal and one with a fuzz, like a doomish guitar pedal. And we sort of mixed that in together just to get the real big punch, you know. And we wanted it to sound like you're just having gravy poured into your fucking skull. So we just try to do it and just play around with it. But it's mainly the scooped out sound we're going for, like old school Cannibal Corpse and sort of thing like that. The amp Anson used on this record is the same Cannibal Corpse I've been using on a lot of their shit. A real ugly fucking amp. It looks like shit.
It sounds good.
yeah, it sounds great, but we always want to take the piss out of him because it looks so shit.
Well, I had one question about this kind of more aesthetic side of the band, because I do like the album cover and kind of the artwork that you do. Do you have an idea of what you want to visually, what you want the band to portray in a way?
Just fucking lunacy. Just whatever. We always try to say that we just want to, when we play live, we just want to take all the feelings of the stage we got and just go fucking nuts. Like we want to be more like a punk show aesthetic than a death metal aesthetic, because we're not evil true. We're not like only death metal is real and all that. We like all sorts of shit. So we just want to bring. So that's our main focus as aesthetically to be different in that sort of way. And did we just want the album to look good, hand painted album cover, and isn't like just different than all these CGI bullshit covers. I think a lot of people do. I think death metal in general does a lot of great covers, really. Like all the metal covers you see in death metal are fucking sick. But more just to, do it maybe a little different. Everyone says that, I know, but I think the Reptilian Warlords cover is pretty unique in a sort of way, just aesthetically. And or we don't want to be like classic evil death metal, to answer your question. We just want to do different sorts of things. We just did this one weird hoodie with a college logo on, just to try different things out and trying to make sure that our fans who are not true death metal either can have some merch to wear to normally, just doing normal shit like.
But like you say, I mean, is there a level of, I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but not taking yourselves too seriously. Obviously, you take what you do and the music seriously, but in the sense of like we're not going to be kind of depressed and sad all the time because it's all of this dark music. It says no, we're going to have fun and we like bright artwork and that kind of stuff. Is that should I see it like that?
Yeah, exactly. Like the songs and all the music we take very seriously. We spend a lot of time writing the songs, composing the songs, finding out exactly what drum fill to do, whatever, like what the bass can do, all that. We take that very seriously, but we don't want to be too serious. And we, like when we play live, we smile all the time, and everyone's like, yeah, smiling. When we played Aarhus this week and 300 people showed up, we just going crazy. Like it was the biggest show we did as headliners, so we were just stoked, and everyone was just like smiling, and like, yeah, I think we just want that vibe for our live shows, because we're not like blast beats all the way through, or just we also got some wavy parts, and just calm intros. The intro to Ambrosia is the long
Right.
intro as well. So I think we want to portray that we are versatile through our live performance and through our image, and I hope it works.
No, but you mentioned Ambrosia, so let's take that. So, like you say, the intro is kind of a little bit slower than a lot of the other parts on the album, and then the outro is, I don't know if it's a mandolin or something like that. So, what was
It's
the
a
idea?
12-string guitar.
Oh, okay, okay. But that, I mean, that song is I think 8.5 minutes or something. So what was the idea behind that music? Did you want to kind of build just this, as you mentioned, kind of a very diverse musical landscape in a way?
Yeah, yeah, we would, and we wanted to tell a full story, like from peace to to despair, and in the end it's a long story, but in the end they travel onwards to another place to live. These people, it's about. So we wanted to do a full story, and then the song itself is composed of two old songs we had, and the one song fucking cool, but it didn't really work somehow. And then we like pulled these two songs apart, and then we put it back together, and we had the slow parts from each song ended up being the intro for Ambrosia, where they do this doom. That was a C part for one of the other songs actually.
Okay.
So we just had a lot of different components, and we put them together in a way that turned out to be Ambrosia. So we wanted to build it from the beginning, and have the eeriness of the beginning, and then the unleash when it kicks off, and then the groove when it grooves out, and then when it comes back full force, and then
Sure.
and it works fucking very well live. I think we played it this weekend and people were loving it. So I'm very stoked about that song actually, because it brings in almost all of our inspirations into one song.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting as well, listening to the album. It kind of it shows another dimension of what you guys do. So I thought that was really interesting. When did the idea of Reptilian Warlords kind of pop into your head?
Yeah, it was around. Yeah, we did the EP, and then probably around start of 2021, I started building on this little universe. And we're just trying to make it as elaborate as possible, and to tell this album is chronologically it's taking place different sorts of points in the story, and then along the storytelling we will put it together. So Ambrosia is happening many years before Rhythmic Demise and Reptilian Warlords is happening, and Among the Filth is happening at another point in time, but it's pretty much about the same thing. But I'll elaborate on that later. We wanted to build a huge universe. I can give you a little sneak peek of
Sure.
of what to come, really, just because we got this cartoon coming out soon.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
A paperback cartoon.
I like
we're gonna do.
Yeah, I like the artwork. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. So we got all sorts of things like this.
Nice.
It's announced pretty soon. So we're gonna do a series of cartoons as well, paperback, real paper, and limited 200 pieces. I'm gonna hand number them as soon as they come in. So just to elaborate on the story, and just to create just to try to explain to people what's going on in my crooked head.
But you mentioned earlier that part of the lyric writing for you is you also put a little bit of your own life and what you see around you in it. So is there one thing you can share that ended up on the album that was taken from your own life, or something that you thought when something happened, you thought, okay, I'm going to write about this?
Yeah. The first thing actually was Impenetrable Leather. because we have a buddy named Sebe who always. The first time I met him was at Copenhagen. He has this brown leather pants. Always wears them. Always at festivals. He was crowd surfing all the time. Had his shirt off. He's maybe like 40 or something.
Okay.
Something like that. And he's just going fucking nuts, long hair, and just ripped that shit. And he looked like a fucking barbarian. He looks almost like that guy.
That's awesome.
That's why I wrote the song Impenetrable Leather about their skin being impenetrable leather because they're so strong brutes. And so I put him in there, and I'm gonna put in some other people at some point.
Well, because one thing I found interesting, and maybe this is just my own interpretation, but I found it for instance, with Cannibalicious, I think it's the last line, "I'm cannibalistic for you," which is almost sounds like some warming love phrase you will tell your girlfriend in a twisted way.
It is, and that song is gonna be implemented somehow. I don't know exactly how, but honestly, that song is pretty much about oral sex, I guess.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just
Fair
about women who are just so fucking beautiful and tantalizing.
Okay, so I wasn't too far off. That's good.
No, you weren't.
Um, kind of to round off there finally, because what do you hope the band can do? You have now this first album, you had an EP, and you've been playing a lot. You've toured with Nervosa. Like you just mentioned, you had your own headline shows. How do you see the next step for what you want to do?
Next step, before Copenhagen, we're obviously trying to get more international festivals, but it might just be in 2025 because everything's booked already.
Sure.
Just trying to squeeze in everywhere. Tomorrow we'll announce a huge ass European tour. Yeah, it will be tomorrow at noon. Yeah, tomorrow at noon. I think we're playing like 35 shows, 36 shows throughout Europe, and it's going to be bonkers. I'm looking forward to that for sure. And then I think we wrote 3 songs for the new album. And then if we get a month or 2 in between all this touring, we will sit down and write the rest, hopefully, or just at least 2, 3 more, so we can hit the studio at some point. I won't promise anything because I really don't know. We always have to take the time it needs. Like, we don't want to rush anything or just make a quick song and just move on. We want to let it breathe, and as I mentioned earlier. So that's the plan for now. The tour is going to be in the spring all throughout Europe. So hope to see a lot of people out there, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Can't wait.
Last question then. When it comes to touring, and you've played live now a bunch of times, but what is for you the fun in touring? Because there's also like it can be exhausting, right? You travel a lot and you have to wait around a lot. So what for you is the fun in touring?
Obviously the shows, obviously, but next to that, it's just meeting local people. There's always some fucking sweet ass people when you come around, and like we met a guy called Vasa in Osnabrück who just talked to us in the merch booth all night, and we're friends now, and just meeting people and just talking and just standing. We like to stand in a merch area all night, just talking to random people just coming up. And I know I'm the one who likes this the most. I think some of the guys do too. Some, of course, need a little time off because they've been playing, but that's what I really like about touring: meeting the local people, meeting the staff at the different venues, and some of them are like, "Get your shit together," and some of them are like, "Nice to meet you," and all of them. It's just so funny to see these sound techs who've been doing the same thing for like 30, 35 years, just still doing sound, and a little club in fucking, I don't know, wherever.
Yeah.
But that's what I really like about touring: meeting people, just chilling, hanging out. seeing new spots.
That's awesome, man. Man, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah, sure. And it was a huge pleasure talking to you.
All right, awesome.